Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the June 9th, 2014 Cabarrus County Board of Education meeting. Before we get started, we'd like to have our color guard and a presentation of the arms. So if everyone will please stand, and we'll have a singer sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Color guard. Hold. Left. Haste. Present. Colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Post. Right. Haste. Forward. Perch. Color guard.
Our color guard tonight, the presentation of the colors was presented to us by a combined unit of the JROTC cadets, and they were a combination of Central High School Cadet Captain Christian Lienhoutz, Mount Pleasant High School Cadet First Lieutenant Jonathan Barbie, Northwest Cabarrus High School Cadet Technical Sergeant Katie Haas, J.M. Robinson High School Cadet Captain Kelly Brown, and the JROTC cadets are instructed by Central Cabarrus High School Sergeant Terry McCabe and Lieutenant Colonel Nelson English. Mount Pleasant is Sergeant Kevin McLaughlin and Lieutenant Colonel Malcolm Snell. Sergeant Major Connie Corrine Smith and Lieutenant Colonel Calvin Martin are from Northwest Cabarrus High School, and Master Sergeant Wayne Outram and Lieutenant Colonel Scott Rose from J.M. Robinson. I would like to thank them. Our presentation, the Star Spangled Banner tonight, was presented by Ms. Hannah Hyatt. She is a student at Odell Elementary. Thank you, Hannah, for a great job. I'd also like to acknowledge that we have our newly promoted Sergeant Doug Vernon, the SRO at Northwest Cabarrus High School. He's going to be here in attendance to help us out tonight as we go through this meeting, and I just want to thank him for his support in being here tonight. All right, board members, we have to set the agenda. So I'm looking for a motion that we set the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
David Harrison,
Second.
Rob Walter. All right, all in favor of the agenda we have tonight, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Okay, motion carries. All right, we're moving to the next portion of our program, and it's going to be, for people who are in recognition, it's going to be a little bit of a wait as we go through our public hearing. And in this public hearing, we want to first take time to thank people who have been writing us emails. We've gotten a number of emails on this subject. Our board members are watching and listening, and we are reading intently what's happened. You'll also be presenting to us tonight. I want to give you a rundown of just how the process will work. If you're an individual, you'll be given 3 minutes, and we'll have a timer up here that will let you know how that works, and it will show you the countdown of where you're going. If you're presenting for a group, then you'll get 5 minutes to converse. As we go forward, I'll read the names of the ones who gave Aileen their comments or their desire to speak earlier in the week. I'll read those names, and then there is a, excuse me, Aileen, do we have a list, a written list? No new names, okay. I will open it up to the floor at the end, just in case there's someone who didn't have a chance to put their name on the list. So as I read the names off, please make your way to the front podium here, and the mic is already keyed up for you, and give us your comments. Now, one of the things I'd like you to know is Dr. Louder is up here taking notes, and so you'll be able to see comments that are that will be made, and we'll try to record as accurately as we can every comment that is made during this process so that we don't lose any of the builds that you give us. So, without further ado, here it is. Let me begin with the first person. That'll be Carly Tripp. Carly, if you...
Actually, I think we need a formal motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm way ahead of myself. So,
I'll make the
board
motion.
members.
I'll make the motion to open the public
Rob,
hearing.
thank you. Thank you, David. Take a second. All in favor of opening the meeting for a public hearing? Aye. All opposed? All right. The meeting is now open for public hearing. Now, if Ms. Carly Tripp or Ms. Carly Tripp would please come forward.
Hi there, good evening. Is this good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name's Carly Tripp, and I'm a resident of Earnhardt Lake Road in Davidson. And I have a rising kindergartner and 2 other children that will follow him soon after. We moved to our house about 2 years ago, and when we moved, we were under the understanding that they'd be going to Odell for elementary, and then to Harris Road, and then to Cox Mill High. So we were moving under that presumption, and that was really a determining factor of why we chose our home. So needless to say, when we showed up with my kindergartner, or rising kindergartner, in April to Odell, only to find out that we were redistricted to Boger, we were pretty embarrassed for my son. It was kind of like a parenting fail. But we were also disappointed because that wasn't our expectation, so it was a little surprising. So when I recently found out of the old Odell site and the plans to redevelop that site, I was kind of excited. I said, oh, maybe in a chance in a year or 2, he can get redistricted back to Odell. But I saw the proposed boundary lines last week, and our road is literally the very first road on the northwest border and is now, again, being proposed for Boger. It's not a very densely populated area. There's certainly no developments underway or planned. In fact, our neighbor owns like the 500 acres to the west there, so I know nothing's happening there. We live on 2.5 acres ourselves, and you could probably count on a hand, max 2, the amount of kids who are probably going to elementary school from the street. So I don't think that's really a concern in terms of it materially impacting the population density at the school. So really, there's a few things that I would like to be considered, and I'll just summarize a couple of them here. So the first is proximity. while it doesn't sound, if you look at pure distance, it doesn't sound like a major difference. The Odell site is like 4 miles from my house. Boger is 6.5. But drive time, it's a major difference. It's more than double the drive time to Boger than it is to the new Odell school. So when we're talking 6 minutes versus 12 to 15, primarily on back roads and residential neighborhoods, safety becomes a concern of mine. So that's number one. The second is just keeping with the Odell community. Again, they're still slated to go to Harrison Cox Mill, thankfully. So the majority of the students that they go to elementary school with will not graduate with them, which is concerning to me. It's a hard adjustment for kids, I think, to go from elementary to middle school, especially for if you have a son like mine who's kind of shy. So that's a consideration too, just having them move along in the various school systems within the community and with the friends and relationships that both he and us as parents will build over the 6 years in elementary school. Lastly is school performance. So I don't want to turn a blind eye to that, because that is a primary consideration when we determine where we live. Boger is certainly a great school, and it's getting its sea legs as a new school. Odell is slightly higher in terms of ranking. And so for me, it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to send my son where it's twice the drive time to a school that is lesser performing and where the majority of the kids are not going to go to middle and high school with him. So again, time. So that's it. We are the first road on the northwest corner, so thank you for your consideration and your time.
Next on our list will be Susan Smith.
My name is Susan Smith. I live at 7879 Unst Road, and I've lived at this address for 18 years now, this August. And I've seen a lot of development in this time in my area. I have 2 children, my son who is currently at Harris Road Middle School, and my daughter who is in Boger. We have been through 2 rezonings with my son. He went from kindergarten through 5th grade. He went to 3 different elementary schools without us having to move at all before graduating from Boger. This was very stressful for him to move from one school to another. The effects are still with him today. He still asks me, will I be able to stay at Harris Road Middle School for all 3 years? 3 years. He's also worried about how many different high schools he's going to go to, and I can't even tell him he'll stay at Cox Mill. I'm pretty sure we won't be able to stay at Cox Mill. And now it looks like the same thing will happen to my daughter. I love my neighborhood, and my daughter loves her school. She knows the rules. She's only got 1 below the line in 2 years that she's been at Boger, and I believe that has a lot to do with the stability of Boger and that it is an excellent school. Currently, there are 5,000 residential dwelling units approved to be built on between Highway 73 and Poplar Tent Road. That's by your own land study use report. So it's not something I was pulling out of there. That came from just in June 2013. And a low-end estimate, that means 1,600 students will be going to Odell School. What happens? And I had to plot from just one of the subdivisions. It says 687 units are planned to be developed there across the street from Unst Road on Odell School Road. That, they said on their community building plat that 206 students will go to Odell School. So what happens when we hit that capacity line again? All of us who were over at Boger went to Odell, go back to Boger. So let's have the simple solution that we just stay at Boger. That's just a few dozen kids. We won't have to deal with stress. They get to have all their familiar friends and teachers and all those stuff. I do understand that they won't move with their friends from Boger to Harris Road Middle, but everybody's moving to a new school when you're going from elementary to middle school. So it's not as dramatic as being just those 60 kids that get moved from one elementary to another elementary. And the capacity at Odell, at Boger, will only be 81%, which is still below that 85% that you were desiring. 4 years ago, I would have done anything to keep my son at Odell School. Now that he has moved on, and my daughter loves Boger, I would do anything to keep her at Boger School. as a special request, if you decide to rezone us back to Odell School, please allow us the decision to stay with which school we would like to, providing that we understand that if we do this, we're going to have to provide the transportation for our own children. Thank you.
Terry Robinson.
First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak pertaining to the Cox Mill and Odell Elementary Schools rezoning. I'm a parent and vice president-elect of the Cox Mill PTO. I volunteer in many areas within the school, such as the office, classroom helper, and room mom. I am able to witness the amazing organization of the 1,153 students at Cox Mill during different hours of the school day. Which brings me to my first point, comfort level. My experience living in Cannon Crossing neighborhood, a Cox Mill neighborhood, which was a determining factor for us when we moved from Pennsylvania, is a close-knit, small neighborhood, which parallels well to the family feel at Cox Mill. Although large in number, students are known by name from the principal and comforted by teachers and staff. We as parents are recognized and felt appreciated for our time and support. This school provides many opportunities throughout the year to unite families and enhance school spirit. I am rightfully concerned about the psychological impacts of switching students to not one school, but in many cases, 2 times. This has been proven to cause anxiety, stress, sadness, and anger, which can lead to behavior issues and loss of friends. It also limits children's ability to learn in full capacity. It disrupts the stage development where kids learn to trust adults, therefore stifling autonomy. Transferring schools also leads to low self-esteem, self-worth, and respect, which is a positive part of the non-academic schooling students are receiving at Cox Mill specifically. We know there is a need to transfer students due to overcrowding. If this goes through, what is the transition plan for my 2 daughters? Will you send teachers from Cox Mill to Odell to ease the talked about emotional issues? If so, how will they be chosen? Teacher preference? Seniority? Principal choice? What are the plans to support my children and those within our neighborhood? Lastly, kids are not data. They are humans with feelings. Why are we rushing this redistricting vote? Are we confident this is a long-term solution based on preliminary information? If there are any doubts, I urge you to gather and confirm all facts before making a rash decision. Please make this a well-thought-out decision so the students involved can be the best product of the sought-after Cabarrus County school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Berg.
Notes from what I'm going to present. Good day. My name is Joe Bjerg. I'm a 18-year resident of North Chase neighborhood here in Concord, and I just wanted to first of all thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of our neighborhood, small as though it may be. My wife Michelle and our 2 children have grown in this family that is Cox Mill Elementary. And I wanted to first, reiterate what Dr. Chris Lauder on the 2nd had presented, of course, to you guys, and to let you know that I'm recognizing the goals that you guys are of course, trying to accomplish. First of all, to alleviate the overcrowding in particular schools, of course, to remove the mobile units, to keep the neighborhoods as unified as possible, and of course to populate the schools at around that 85%, hope maybe lower, for future growth. And what I'm requesting this evening is, if graciously considered and granted, will continue to allow for all of these goals to still be met while serving the greater good of the society that makes up our small community of North Chase, which you may not know about. It's an established small neighborhood of basically 44 homes that are completed. It's basically a road with 2 tributary roads. There is not going to be any additional growth in our neighborhood. It's built out. There's also very little turnover in our neighborhood. It's not a transient community. We also have above average tax values, so we generate good revenue per home for the county. At the same time, we're not a very large burden on your infrastructure. We have, by our most recent census for the future school year, only 10 elementary school children. Part of that's because some of our kids are moving up to the middle school. Again, like I said, we're more of an aging, because people don't really move out, we're more of an aging community. So the kids are moving up, and the remainder is basically the siblings coming into play. Most of the families, or not most, but those who do have the siblings have older siblings who did go to Cox Mill, and so the families already have an established history at Cox Mill, and we feel that the continuity would provide a great springboard for the future little brothers and sisters, of course, to be entering into an excellent education. I know my own son, who's entering kindergarten next year at Cox Mill, already has a positive relationship with the school. Whenever we drive by the school, of course, he likes to refer to it as his own. But I don't just want to appeal to the emotional side, because I know that sometimes the emotion doesn't necessarily translate very well. Everybody, of course, is attached to their school. I mean, we wouldn't all be here. I need to also meet your all's goals and the goals of the county as well. So I just wanted to show you that the numbers that the doctor proposed last week for Cox Mill, you see in my graph at the bottom, the current enrollment at 116%, the proposed enrollment with the change at 87%, and by keeping us in this particular boundary right now to keep our continuity would only increase that by 1%. So again, from a goal standpoint, you're still, I think, alleviating the overcrowding, and the capacity is at approximately 85% to still allow for that future growth. Now, I know Dr. Louder's figures put the enrollment at 16. I just wanted to let you know that we did do a canvass of our neighborhood to get a more specific population, and that's, again, looking forward to the future. I know, again, this is also that the growth is not coming from our neighborhood, and that the numbers, though, shouldn't really be uncomfortable from a county standpoint. However, of course, any boundaries that are moved, as you guys already know, I don't have to explain it to you, are always going to have an uncomfortable effect on the communities that are affected. We understand that the change and the growth happens. We also understand that we wanted to give you some options as to some different ways of looking at this, because we're familiar with the land that's around. We've been around for a long time. There is still some segments, as you can see in my maps. There's some undeveloped land to the south of us, underneath the creek, that is still very empty. That area is not our land. It's probably going to be somebody else's that will be developed in the future. So that, of course, you can have. There's nobody there to go to school right now. I wanted to make one more appeal, and that is to the safety. It's my greatest appeal. I know I don't have any more time left, but you can read about it as you so desire. It's the rule of rights that coming out of our neighborhood, very difficult to go left. We have a very, very bad intersection coming out of our neighborhood. We would now transfer all of those cars going left in the morning. That's a very, very large determining factor for me. And I hope that you guys would consider this, and also consider my map options that you have there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Vicki Rogers.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Rogers. I am a parent of a Coxmill Elementary student and a resident of Cannon Crossing. First, I would like to thank the school board for the opportunity to speak today. I'm sure deciding on which communities to include in the redistricting is a difficult decision, but I would ask that you reconsider not including Cannon Crossing. My family and I purposely moved into Cabarrus County, hoping that the public school system would be more stable than surrounding counties. We specifically chose Cannon Crossing because we wanted our children to attend Coxmill Elementary. I have three primary concerns regarding the proposed redistricting. First, I believe that the transition from 1 to now 2 schools could have negative implications on a child's social and emotional well-being. Adjusting to a new school, new faculty and staff, and new classmates could prove to be a challenge. Secondly, I'm concerned that the property values for our community will decline as a result of the redistricting. And finally, as a parent volunteer, the redistricting plan poses an issue in terms of splitting resources from the perspective of my volunteer time as well as donations to the various schools. Thank you again for your attention, and I hope that you reconsider including Cannon Crossing in the proposed redistricting plan.
Thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, there is room in the lobby if you choose to sit down. It's being televised out there, so any of you that are tired of standing, feel free to go into the lobby if you feel the weight of your feet calling you. But anyway, our next person will be Lee Wilson.
Good evening. I'm a mom of 2 children residing in the Cannon Crossing development. I know that your decision over which communities are going to change schools was not taken lightly, and that you have a logical explanation for your choices, but I don't want the fact that we want the best for our children to be discounted. Looking ahead for my youngest daughter, should these changes be made, she will have been moved from 3 schools in the next 4 years, instead of remaining at just 1 for her elementary years. And this is a big concern for me. Many emotions and much instability may arise from these changes, and I want to spare my child from as many possible changes. There is personal growth from change, but there's thriving through familiarity and stability, and I want my children to thrive. We are a small community with a big heart for Coxmill. Coxmill is like family. My youngest is so looking forward to going to kindergarten this upcoming year, and I'm convinced that it's because she is familiar with the building and the awesome teachers she has been in contact with from her sibling over the past 4 years. The teachers know both my girls and greet them by name, and you cannot put a price on such personal touch or school experience. I was deeply discouraged on hearing the news that our development had been chosen to be reassigned to another school. My husband and I specifically chose Cannon Crossing so that my older daughter at the time could remain in Coxmill Elementary. This is important to me, and I feel that this decision you're making was not of my choosing, but at the end of the day, we must respect your decision. We know our children will get an education, and they will experience life at either school, but our choice is Coxmill. My heart pleads to have us stay at Coxmill Elementary. We would deeply appreciate you reconsidering your zoning line to keep us where we're at, so that our children can thrive where they are comfortable, at a school that they are familiar with, and a school that they love. Please keep us part of the Coxmill family and keep us a comment. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. Mike Drazy.
Good evening. My name is Mike Drazy, and my family and I live in Cannon Crossing. Like most people, my wife and I want what's best for our children. Like most people, we make decisions that sometimes come with sacrifices to achieve it. You, the board, have made sacrifices to do what's right for all of our children. We want you to hear our story, know who we are, and understand why we feel so strongly for our kids, the kids in our community, to attend Coxmill Elementary. In 2007, I was recruited by a NASCAR team and our family moved to the area. There are many things that go into deciding where to live, and at the time we decided on Cannon Crossing, and it heard that Cabarrus County has good schools. We had yet to realise what a fortuitously good decision we had made. Our son Drew, who you will hear from shortly, has just completed 3rd grade at Coxmill. Under the guidance of Mrs. Moore, her excellent leadership team and teachers, he has grown to become a wonderful, well-adjusted boy. He's thrived. He has an avid thirst for learning. He understands responsibility. Would he have achieved the same in a different school? Possibly. The county has great schools, and the school's there if a child wants to learn. But we firmly believe the school creates that desire, and in this, Coxmill excels. Every decision is well thought out for maximum effectiveness, always putting the kids first. Coxmill has become so much more than just a school. As a family, we have gladly given our time to help out in class activities and have donated, with gift matching, to invest in your child. In 2010, our daughter Mia was born. If the rezoning goes ahead, she will be unable to attend Coxmill for the entire K through 5 and will, as we understand it, have the disruption of attending 3 different schools. We ask that you do what you can to give Mia the great start that Drew has been afforded. I previously mentioned sacrifice. I no longer work in NASCAR, but I now work for General Electric in Greenville, South Carolina. I commute 100 miles each way. Like deciding where to live, there are many reasons for choosing where to work. But whenever I'm asked why I live so far away, I always say it's because I want our kids to go to Coxmill. Sadly, I've always said kids, because I took it for granted that Mia would go there too. As a family, we gladly make the sacrifices necessary to keep our kids in that school. The next time you drive to work, think about how far you'd travel or the sacrifices you'd make to give your kids the opportunities you want for them. In summary, we ask that you please continue to allow the kids of Cannon Crossing to attend Coxmill and not rush into any decision. If that's not possible, please thoroughly investigate options to grandfather in the siblings of those already there, while transitioning to accommodate the needs of those who don't even live in the area yet. Thank you for your time.
Drew Drazy.
My name is Drew Drazy, and I live in Cannon Crossing. I'm a rising 4th grader at Coxmill Elementary. I started going to Coxmill in kindergarten. I've liked the school ever since my first day there. I like the way the teachers, staff members, and Mrs. Moore are nice and friendly. The school is close to my house. There are a lot of good books in the library for research and reading. I like the extra programs I can attend, like Science Club, and I'm looking forward to Lego Robotics. Each teacher has a laptop, iPad, and smartboard to help with learning, which makes it different from doing it on a blackboard. I think it is a very good way to learn. I started learning Mandarin in 2nd grade. I think that learning another language will be helpful because if I travel there, I will know how to communicate. Mandarin is also fun because it includes the Chinese zodiac. It is also helpful to learn Mandarin because it's a big population who use it. Also in second grade, I was accepted into the AIG program. It has taught me about different subjects, and I've done research. I enjoy going every week. I have a little sister, Mia, who will go to kindergarten in 2 years. When she goes to Cox Mill, I will be in 5th grade. I hope she is able to go to Cox Mill like I do because it is a very good school and I enjoy going there. I want my sister to have the same fun experiences and maybe have the same teachers that I did. Cox Mill is like a family because we care and stand up for each other. I would feel sad if my sister couldn't go to Cox Mill. I would want to take her in my book bag so she could go. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Kristen Drazy.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Drazy, and I reside in the Cannon Crossing neighborhood with my family. You have just heard from my son, Drew, who has just spoken about his experiences at Cox Mill. He has used his own words to write a speech, not only for his sister, but for his friends in the neighborhood. I'm here to talk to you as a parent. As Drew told you, he has loved every minute of his experience at Cox Mill. He has excelled in his studies with the extra opportunities that have been given to him. He placed on the high honor roll throughout the year and scored very well on his EOGs. I appreciate some say part of the learning comes from home, which I agree. My husband and I are both educated and push our children to do well. However, it is also important to have the teachers and administrators to also push these kids to do their best with all the tools we can provide them with. Cox Mill has done this. My youngest has literally grown up at Cox Mill as she was 4 months old when Drew started. Mia has come to school when she can and cannot wait to go to big school with her brother. The teachers have seen her grow. Many know who she is. This alone tells you about the school. It's not just a school, but a family, a home. We send our children there to learn, feel comfortable, and be loved. It is very important for children to have stability, especially in their elementary school education. We're invested in our community and our school. They go hand in hand. If this proposal is to take place, Mia will go to 3 schools in her elementary schooling. There have been various studies proving the negative effects of moving schools have on a child. Moving is stressful, not only to children, but for us as parents. And with this proposal, it would happen 3 times. For some children, this is their first experience of being away from their parents, and to have this constant shift, how can they learn to grow and thrive when the boundaries are constantly changing? It takes time for children to warm up to their surroundings and be themselves, gain confidence, and learn the rules of a school and classroom. The constant upheaval is not good for them or for the teachers. The teachers, too, have to take time to help the new students become acclimatized to their new school and classroom. It puts kids behind, and some never catch up. This is not the start we want for our children. Children benefit from stability. The constant change of teachers and friends causes children to react negatively with misbehavior, poor self-esteem, and not taking an interest in the classroom. Again, this is not the start we want for our children. Finally, with the recent investigation that was done by Jeff Phillips over the weekend, it has highlighted the fact that there is still more research to be done. This time needs to be taken to review the information that was gathered over the weekend and what we've spoken about tonight before the final plans are put into place. We need to slow down and take the time and care that every parent wants when considering their child's future. Please reconsider your position regarding the districting proposals and keep Cannon Crossing part of the Cox Mill family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Crazy. Michelle Teague.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Michelle Teague, and I live in Skybrook. After speaking to numerous neighbors, I have yet to find one that is happy with the proposal to rezone Skybrook out of the Cox Mill Elementary boundary. When my husband and I were looking to build our house 7.5 years ago, we did all of the research that any family would do. We looked at the local schools and what the schools could offer our family. We looked at test scores. We looked at student-teacher ratios, at programs, at opportunities offered, at parent involvement. We ran the numbers. If you could find information out there, I found it and we looked at it. It's for those reasons that we chose Cox Mill Elementary and built our house specifically on the Cabarrus County side of Skybrook for Cox Mill Elementary. If you ask any of my neighbors, they will tell you the same thing. They looked to Cabarrus County, to Skybrook for Cox Mill. If they moved into the neighborhood, same thing. They looked into Cabarrus County for Cox Mill. One of your written goals was to keep the neighborhoods as unified as possible. Skybrook, our neighborhood, has been around a lot longer than some of these newer neighborhoods and has always been a part of Cox Mill. Since our son started kindergarten, our family has heavily vested in Cox Mill, and I know that my neighbors have done the same thing. For at least the past 7 to 8 years, the Invest in Your Child program has raised $50,000 to $60,000 each year, and that is all contribution from families. This money has been used to fund staff, to buy smart boards, to buy iPads, to name a few things. That's quite a bit of money that has not come out of the county budget, that the county did not supply. We contributed generously to this fund because all of these things would benefit our children and my future children that would attend Cox Mill. Cox Mill is a family to us. Our son actually started there when he was 4. We have had the best experience there. We love the teachers, the staff, the students that go there. We love the communication that we get with his teachers. And if I'm being completely honest, we get a lot because my son is a talker. We love that everyone knows each other. And if my son wants to go play with one of his classmates, it's not a problem because they live in the vicinity. With this new reproposing of the boundaries, that's not going to be a possibility. We love that everyone knows each other. And if my son, we love the parent involvement. We love that he's excited to go to school and the education that he is receiving. The EOG scores at Cox Mill are excellent and far above any other schools, including Odell's. Cox Mill is also highly ranked among the Cabarrus County school system, as you guys know. We love that the marching band from the high school comes across the street and gives the kids pep rallies or leads the parade to celebrate the end of the year studying for the EOGs. I love that my son loves to go to school. Now, while this proposal will not affect his elementary school years, you are impacting my daughter. You are taking all of this away from her. She is entering kindergarten at Cox Mill this year. This is an experience that we should be so excited about for her, and I am dreading it. I dread the idea that my daughter will go to 3 different schools with this proposal. That is completely ridiculous for a child. Your job is to do what is in the best interest of these children, and that is not in the best interest of these children. You are pulling my daughter out of a school that gets 10 out of 10 on greatschools.org and putting her into a lesser school. I don't even want to think about the nightmare or the logistics of having multiple kids at different schools and all of the havoc that that can wreak. You have other options. You can extend the boundaries to Derrida and Poplar Tent and leave Skybrook at Cox Mill. You could grandfather all children in to finish at Cox Mill. You could wait. I also have other options, and as a fiercely protective parent, I will do what is in the best interest of my daughter. And if that involves looking at other alternatives, such as charter schools, to keep my daughter in the most stable environment, then that will be my clear choice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Teague. Nick Lewis.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Nick Lewis, and I'm a serving board member of the Cannon Crossing Homeowners Association, representing the community. We appreciate the opportunity to share our views and our potential solution to the proposed rezoning of the Cox Mill and Odell Elementary Schools. May we first request that the decision-making process be extended and further investigated based on the limited information and limited time frame provided to our community. It has come to our attention that errors that efforts to rezone the children would most likely be a temporary fix due to a continual residential growth in our area. And as a community, we would like to have a more permanent and long-term solution. These facts are supported by the Facebook post from Mr. Jeff Phillips yesterday evening on June 8th. Speaking in terms of numbers that have been provided to us by Assistant Superintendent Dr. Chris Louder, Cox Mill needs to decrease the school population between 250 and 300 children. Under the proposed rezoning that was published by Cabarrus County Schools on the website, you propose to rezone Cannon Crossing with an average of about 50 children, Poplar Woods with an average of about 60 children, Poplar Trails with about 10 children, and Skybrook about 120 children. After coming together as a community, we have determined that geographically, some of these communities at their maximum building capacity, like Cannon Crossing, while there are a few additional homes that are not built out, will no longer be able to grow due to being landlocked by Poplar Tent Road, the shopping center, and Rocky River Creek. Therefore, our resident numbers will not increase, and the numbers at Cox Mill Elementary will not increase anymore, and it will not affect ordinary fluctuation due to people moving in and out of the mature neighborhood. We propose by drawing a new line that will allow some of the larger neighborhoods that are still growing among the Harris Road area that will accomplish this goal with exponential numbers, and also provide a solution to growing residential areas in the close proximity to these larger neighborhoods, such as the townhomes at Edison Square, the proposed apartment complex on Harris Road, and the 500-home subdivision mentioned by Mr. Jeff Phillips. This would allow expanding residential areas the opportunity to attend the new Odell and keep the completed neighborhoods in the Cox Mill district, thereby making Cox Mill Elementary population more stable throughout the future. By doing so, we're preparing for future growth of our community and ensuring our children will be able to have a stable environment, instead of spreading the overcrowding issue to all the schools in the district and having to rezone repeatedly. While I realize this is something that's going to affect all our neighborhoods, and we all have to figure out where to go, the biggest thing we want to continue to ask you to do is take some time, spend time with these folks that are here, both from our neighborhood, Cannon Crossing, and any neighborhood, and learn more about us, what's going on in the neighborhoods, what's going on in the area, before you make this decision of where a line goes across somebody's backyard. The last concern of our community is just the traffic flow around the Poplar Tent and Harris Road intersection. It's already, overwhelmingly hard to get in and out of a lot of the neighborhoods in that area. So please look at traffic flow when you consider these options. And in summary, the Cannon Crossing residents would like to encourage further investigation into the residential growth and its long-term effect. We would also, like I said, propose a new line, which I've got it here on the map that we'll leave here for you. And it'd be going from the corner of Cox Mill Road across the open fields into to the Clark Creek area. By doing this, we're stabilizing the Cox Mill population by including areas that have completed residential areas or residential growth, and allowing for new residential growth to grow parallel with the new Odell and then the future school that's coming further out, 73. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Brian Riley.
I'm definitely not smarter than that third grader. Good evening. My name is Brian Riley, and I'm a resident of the Cannon Crossing community. My wife, Jenny, and I are proud parents of two daughters, Ella, a 7-year-old first grader currently enrolled at Cox Mill, and Emery, 5, who will enter kindergarten at Cox Mill this fall. We are both actively involved in our community, and my wife is a weekly volunteer at the school. We have lived and been homeowners in Cabarrus County since 2000 and built our home in 2008, choosing the location before our children were born with the intention of providing them with a stable, secure environment to maximize their education, personal development, and social interaction. Understanding the rapid growth potential in this area, we chose a smaller community within a mile and a half of Cox Mill Elementary, with thoughts that Cannon Crossing, with 50 children, versus the 120 to 180 of neighboring communities, would not be affected by rezoning and relocation. Tonight, like many of others here, I have three primary concerns. The proposed zoning will split my family into two schools. My youngest daughter would attend 3 schools within the first 4 years of her education. And I see the planned growth and development of the Harris Road area and feel the current proposal is simply a short-term solution which will require additional rezoning within the next few years. It's been proposed that the Winding Walk development, despite having to drive past Cannon Crossing to get to Cox Mill, having 3 times the number of current students with continued growth plans, and being geographically located on the same street as Odell Elementary, would remain at Cox Mill. I feel an alternative would be to secure at least one of these schools, and more importantly, the students from future rezoning by keeping the neighborhoods on Poplar Tent, specifically Poplar Woods, Poplar Trails, North Chase, and Cannon Crossing, who have limited or fixed plans for future expansion aligned with Cox Mill. The neighborhoods on Harris Road have the numbers needed to transfer to the extent expanded Odell schools. Plus, as growth and development continue on Harris Road, it will only affect the possible rezoning expansion of one elementary school in the future, Odell, rather than impacting both Odell and Cox Mill again. In closing, my comments this evening are simply the voice of one concerned father. But as you've seen by many of the others in the attendance this evening, we share the same opinions. I understand completely that population growth in our area has and will continue to present challenges. But as residents of Cannon Crossing, we ask the school board to reconsider the proposed changes and to look for alternatives that keep our community, and more important, our families, together at Cox Mill Elementary. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Jason Owens.
Dr. Shepard, members of the board, thank you so much for allowing us to have this forum here this evening. This is fantastic. It's my first meeting, and it's amazing to see the community involvement, seeing the kids, seeing the placards. This is just absolutely fantastic. My wife and I have lived in the Rollingwood Forest neighborhood since 2001. We love going to Boger. We just really enjoy the school. My daughter has excelled there. And to alleviate some of the pressure that you're feeling on the Cox Mill School, we'll be more than happy to volunteer to stay at Boger. So with that in mind, some people may ask me, well, Jason, why not sign up for the rest of the new plan? It seems to me that folks are really clamoring to stay at Odell. When I looked through the presentation that you made public on the website, I looked through all the slides, I looked through the maps, I looked through the charts, and I got to admit, I'm having a really hard time just signing up for the new Odell. The reason is that I don't really see a picture of what the new Odell is. If I could see an artist rendering of what the new Odell is, if I could see a new floor plan of what the new Odell looks like, that would make it a lot easier for me to get excited. And I was hoping really tonight that we would see maybe somewhere on the walls, maybe we had a picture of that new floor plan, or maybe we had a new artist rendering here tonight. But I'm not seeing that. And that makes me very afraid because I can't find just the right amount of enthusiasm for that. I've been asking, and I keep getting mixed responses. Is there really truly going to be a new building? Or are we just simply going to have the new Odell be the old Odell? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Jim Tomczyk.
That's pretty good. It's a tough last name. Good evening. My name is Jim Tomczyk, and I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here tonight with my wife and my 7-year-old, Sydney Tomczyk. Sydney will be completing first grade tomorrow at Cox Mill. And our families live in Cannon Crossing. And beyond what our fellow neighbors have already stated tonight, which I think is valid and strong arguments, I would like to make the following statements. Our family feels the need to fully understand the rezoning for Cannon Crossing based on what's been supplied so far. and to really understand actually the needs for that rezoning. For us, that's still very unclear. Specifically, we have questions as it relates to the growth plans of the new neighborhoods, in particular Chestnut Reserve with 497 homes, 230 home site for Poplar Tent just before 73, and a townhome community at Edison Square. Is there a full understanding of the impact of these neighborhoods on the potential rezoning and to avoid a further restructuring in 2 to 4 years? The last thing our family wants to do, I think as other families have mentioned, is to move back and forth from different schools. Finally, we are questioning why this decision needs to be completed in mid-July, again, like some of the other families stated, given the complexity and emotional impact that it has on our family and the neighborhood in Cannon Crossing. In summary, I hope the board not only decides to delay the vote until they fully explore and understand the dynamics of the situation, but to come to a conclusion not to rezone Cannon Crossing and to leave Cannon Crossing children attending Cox Mill. I thank the board for their time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tomczyk. Amanda Snyder.
My name is Amanda Snyder. I live in Cannon Crossing, and as you can see from the level of support tonight, Cannon Crossing is a strong community. I have 2 elementary school age children, Caroline, who is a rising second grader, and Kyle, a rising kindergartner. When it came time for my husband and I to start considering our children's education, the obvious decision was to sell our home in Mecklenburg County and move home. Home to where I had spent my whole entire pre-collegiate education and home to some, if not the highest quality schools in North Carolina. I am here to speak tonight on behalf of my family. Family to me is not just my husband and my children, but also my community of neighbors and their children that live in Cannon Crossing who will be affected by the proposed redistricting of the Odell School area. Cox Mill Elementary is a family to my family. We've been able to participate in family dance nights, movie nights, fall festivals, and we've done this right beside our children's teachers and administrative staff. Given Caroline's great experience at Cox Mill, Kyle has greatly anticipated kindergarten and is looking forward to going to the same school as his big sister. As a parent, it will be a relief to finally have my children in the same place, to be able to volunteer at their school and send them to movie nights and other activities at the same school. How many parents want to send their elementary-aged children to 2 separate schools for any event? 2 years ago, when Caroline entered kindergarten, we were skeptical of what public schools could offer in terms of quality and communal learning environments. But we have been pleasantly surprised and extremely happy with the community that exists at Cox Mill Elementary. From the top down, the school is well organized, properly structured to help students learn, and very well supported by parents and staff. Caroline began learning Mandarin in kindergarten, participated in Math Superstars, a parent-led initiative that focuses on math skills based on ability, and now in first grade participates in a weekly AIG preparation program. The amount of parental involvement is remarkable. The school conducts an annual fundraising event called Invest in Your Child, which has raised $50,000 to $75,000 for each of the past 2 years to specifically support the needs of the school. We love our school. So when we think about the possibility of having to leave it, you can understand how we become defensive and passionate. Children thrive in a stable and nurturing environment where they have a routine and know what to expect. Although some change in children's lives is normal and anticipated, sudden and dramatic disruptions can be extremely stressful and affect children's feelings of security. With the proposed redistricting plan taking place in 2016, this will be a time when my daughter will be taking her critical end-of-grade test. A study by Temple and Reynolds Research found that even after controlling for background factors, multiple school changes, which was defined as 2 or more, remain correlated with lower academic achievement. Not only does this correlate with lower academic scores, but also behavior problems. Children who frequently change schools were associated with 50 to 100% likelihood to experience a learning disorder, a delay in growth or development, or have 4 or more behavioral problems in children who moved infrequently. This is a large price to pay for a highly rated elementary school that will be affected by so much change. I'm here tonight to question whether we are moving too fast, considering all the facts and making good long-term decisions. The growth in our area has been taking place over a period of years, so why do we need to make this decision in a period of 6 weeks between the time you announce the proposed plan and the time you plan to vote on it? And I think I'm out of time. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Kristen Dunn.
Hello. My name is Kristen Dunn. I'm a resident of Skybrook. I'm opposed to the proposed rezoning plan that will move Skybrook children to Odell. When I moved to North Carolina, I did my homework on the local area schools. We chose to purchase our home in Skybrook because Cox Mill was ranked as the #1 elementary school in Cabarrus County. We did research on greatschools.net when we moved here, and Cox Mill receives 10 out of 10 stars, while Odell only receives 8 out of 10. One of the main reasons that Cox Mill is ranked so highly is because their students consistently do well on standardized testing. If you look at the EOG scores from 2012-13, 76.2% of Cox Mill students were at or above grade level in math, and 69% were at or above grade level in reading. Whereas these same percentages for Odell were 64.6% and 57.7% respectively. Thus, in both reading and math, Cox Mill students score 11 to 12 percentage points higher than Odell. These superior scores are why Cox Mill is ranked as the 51st elementary school in the state of North Carolina, and Odell is only ranked as 176th. I handpicked Cox Mill because it's a school of excellence, and that title is not easy to obtain. I would also like to point out that there is no research that the K-2 and 3-5 elementary school model has been successful. I was unable to find another public school system in North Carolina that has implemented this model successfully. Moving third graders into a new school environment that they are unfamiliar with the first year that they are going to take their EOGs is a bad idea. In fact, CMS recently evaluated and considered this model in connection with the proposed redistricting, and they decided against it. I have also noticed that Cabarrus County has been making a lot of changes lately in an attempt to compete with the insurgence of charter schools in this area. Our new motto is now CCS is the clear choice. But is it? If you rezone Skybrook, I guarantee that you're going to have lots of families that pull their children out of Cabarrus County schools and look to the charter schools that you are trying so desperately to compete with. The clear choice to me is leaving my children at the school that I chose for them to attend, the school that I have contributed financial resources toward, the school that consistently scores higher on standardized testing, the school that has earned the esteemed title of North Carolina School of Excellence, the school where I have volunteered hundreds of hours of my time, where I have gotten to know the administration and faculty, the school where their siblings and cousins have attended and where they are most comfortable. Cox Mill is the clear choice for my kids. So what is the answer? What I propose is that when you are redrawing the boundary lines, you use Poplar Tent Road as the dividing line. All neighborhoods on the northeast side go to Odell, and all those on the south side go to Cox Mill. It makes sense, and it's the clear geographical divider. Skybrook was actually one of the original neighborhoods that fed into Cox Mill. It was around before Winding Walk and Christenberry were built, and it seems only right that we should get to stay in the school that we helped establish. If you do move forward with your proposal, I would urge you to consider letting any student who started at Cox Mill stay at Cox Mill, thus grandfathering in all those children and not just the fifth graders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Carrie Ferguson.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Ferguson, and I'm a Skybrook resident. I have a fourth grader and a first grader at Cox Mill Elementary, as well as a 4-year-old. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Skybrook residents, particularly with elementary school-age children. In this proposed redistricting plan, my 4-year-old son, Ian, will go to 3 schools in 4 years. Ian will attend kindergarten at Cox Mill beginning in the fall of 2015. He will then be transferred to Odell K-2 for 2 years, and then transferred again to Odell 3-5 for the duration of his elementary school years. I have spoken to other parents, teachers, and guidance counselors, and everyone agrees that 3 schools in 4 years is not in the best interest of any child, academically or socially. This is not an acceptable solution for our overcrowded schools. Not only will Ian be moved around to the 3 schools in 4 years, but his brother will be in a separate elementary school according to this proposal, while his sister is at Harris Road Middle School. 2 elementary-aged children in 2 different schools will create a logistical nightmare. How will the buses operate? Will there be separate buses for each school? Will I be standing at 2 elementary school bus stops for 30 to 40 minutes each day? Will there be one bus that runs to each school so that one of my children is spending a lot of extra time on the bus? How will I get one child off the bus and then pick up the sibling from science club after school? What about the siblings who will go to Kids Plus in 2 separate schools? How can I volunteer in 3 different schools, counting my daughter at Harris Road Middle? In this proposal, you have kept neighborhoods together, but you have divided families and siblings. Now I will have to attend 3 different dining nights, buy 3 different yearbooks, fund money to 3 separate PTOs. And my next question is, has there been a traffic study done on Harris Road and Odell School Road? We can't turn left into Odell Elementary School coming from Skybrook. There's no stoplight at the corner of Harris Road and Odell School Road. Harris Road Middle School has many clubs and activities that occur before school that will start at the same time as the Odell Elementary School opening, all around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. Harris Road Middle School is also the transportation hub for J.N. Freeze Magnet School. So you have all these different cars, all these different buses converging onto one area where I don't feel that the roads are equipped to handle that. My final thought of the night stems from the Cabarrus County Schools' very simple tagline: Cabarrus County Schools, the clear choice. My husband and I both attended and believe in public schools. We moved into Cabarrus County Skybrook solely for Cox Mill Elementary and the Cabarrus County Middle School and Cox Mill High School. However, 3 schools in 4 years is clearly not the right choice for my child, or any child. I'm asking the school board to consider Poplar Tent Road as a distinct district line, or perhaps grandfathering in the children who start at Cox Mill and allow them to finish their elementary school years at Cox Mill, rather than grandfathering just the 5th grade students. If this current proposal is approved, we will be forced to pull our children out of Cabarrus County Schools and put them into a charter school. That will be the only clear choice as for what's in the best interest of my children's education. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Clint Cagle.
I have a board here, but it's actually blank. I'm going to write on it a little bit. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit of numbers. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I like to look at some numbers. And I'm not a great speaker, so if I'm looking down a lot. Just to give you a heads up, so I went to the all-knowable Google Maps and did a little study on actual driving distance. I know you put a big emphasis on geographical distance, but I put more of an emphasis on driving distance. If you look at the map, Google Maps, shortest route from I believe it's from Fairwoods and Harrisburg, that cross section, the distance to Cox Mill. I'll bring out the big board here. The difference to Cox Mill is 3.4 to that intersection. From that intersection to Odell is 2.2. So you got a little bit of shorter distance actually for communities there on Harris Road to get to Odell. And then from communities on Poplar Tent, Poplar Trail and Poplar Woods, the distance from Poplar Woods and Poplar Trail, this is from the entry to the neighborhood, is to Cox Mill is 1.9 and 1.6, and to Odell from those 2 communities is 2.9 and 2.6. So just to give you some point on the numbers, If we go this route, we're increasing the drive distance. That's bus gas, bus maintenance, air pollution, any number of things. If we go this route, we're decreasing all that. So my recommendation would actually be to have the communities on Poplar Tent, which represent about, if I remember, the recommended was 300. If you take two communities here, 120 and 180, you get the 300, and then you take Cannon Crossing, Poplar Trails, Poplar Woods, North Chase, and that would plus Skybrook was about 300, and so I'm recommending that we leave the communities on Poplar Tent, go to Cox Mill, just to reduce. I'm out of time. Just to reduce potential gas mileage and pollution for our school buses. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Matt Nerum.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us this evening. I'm a resident of Skybrook. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them attend Cox Mill now. I have a rising second grader and a rising first grader. And I certainly appreciate the challenge that you guys are faced with in terms of making the right decision, dealing with the overcrowding, and appreciate that you don't take that lightly. My concerns are similar to many that have been voiced here this evening, and quite frankly probably said more eloquently than I can articulate, so I'll be as brief as I can. Number one, my concern is the quality of education first for my daughters. While I'm sure Odell is a good school, Cox Mill is clearly better, and that's seen in the end-of-year test scores. That's a significant delta between the scores at Cox Mill and the scores at Odell. Through the plan that was shared on the website, I see the geographical changes, but I don't see a plan to improve the level of education at Odell and bring it on par with Cox Mill, and that's a concern of mine. Another concern of mine is relative to our property value in Skybrook, and looking at the map and the dividing line, winding walk right across the street going to Cox Mill. All things being equal, there'd be a significant shift for us potentially in our property values. And while that's a concern of mine, I think that as a community, representative of the community, this body should consider those factors as well. Additionally, I'm concerned about the logistics involved in having my daughters moving into different schools. Like many others here this evening, I'll have a daughter who would attend 3 different schools. And as has been said before, I'll say again, is quite a bit of stress to put on children of that age, and is a large concern of mine. I guess my ask of this group would be to consider all of the options, and are there other options? And given the speed in which this decision seems to be made, is there an opportunity to slow down and really look at this from a more comprehensive standpoint and look at the best long-term solution for all of our children? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nerum. I have reached the end of our list of speakers. Is anyone else in the room, do they desire to have an opportunity to speak before the board? I'll open it up. Yes, ma'am.
I'll watch my clock.
Could you state your name, please?
Jean Waynish. I'm from Skybrook. I do not have any children in the elementary school yet. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. I specifically just recently bought in Skybrook for the Cox Mill Elementary. Just like everyone else, I did my research. I feel a little late to the game because I don't have a child right now, so I'm catching up to speed. But the thing I have seen through what little research I've been able to do so far, from hearing from every community, whether it's my community or the surrounding, is really the need to slow down. We are growing so much in our area that my children won't be impacted immediately. Of course, I don't want them to lose the elementary school I selected for them, right? I have a drive as well to get to work. I jostle them between their daycare centers now, all with the intention of Cox Mill, with being able to provide them that superior education. And so I hope that what the board will do is step back and take the time to continue the research, to look at the options, to understand what those zoning changes will mean and how the future growth will impact that. What I don't want to see is when whatever your decision is, and we have to respect that decision. We know it's not an easy one. No one is sitting up here going, I want to hurt these people's children, right? You're a school board. You want to benefit our children. So I understand that completely, but I don't want to be back here again. When my son is, when I'm at the point where so many parents are here, where my son is in one school and my daughter's about to enter. And we're yet again, because of the growth, having to look at rezoning. And I think one of the last points that was just made by one of my neighbors, which is very powerful, is show us the bright future. Show us the new Odell and how it is going to be what Cox Mill is, and how it's going to provide that family and that education and the development and that growth opportunity for our children. And I think you would see a different reaction, a different set of emotions. Like I said, I'm not fortunate enough to have my children in yet, but I bought in that community. My family is in that community. We walk through Winding Walk to see family, to get over to the other neighborhoods, right? They're all connected by sidewalks. So then if this does happen, we socially isolate my children from their classmates, from people that we walk to. There's no one else, that we would have. So I would just ask that the board consider the requests of all the communities. I'm sure you've done a lot of research. I know this isn't made lightly, but I hope that you'll slow down, that you'll take all of these things into consideration, to look at the research, to make sure we know about traffic patterns and all of these other things. Maybe give people the opportunity to become more involved and support you. Again, I could get up here and cry and be upset. As a mother, I'm disappointed. I hope we'll stay in Cox Mill, but I really, really hope that you'll take the time. I know you're not doing this lightly, and like I said, I hope you'll do that. And I'm out, so I'll stop. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Winish. Is there anyone else that would wish? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
My name is Stephanie Ryan, and I'm a Skybrook resident. I have 4 kids that have grown up in the Cox Mill school. Quite honestly, it doesn't directly affect me. My kids are going to move on at this point. But what concerns me as an educator, I was a teacher before I became a mother, is the K, 2, 3, 5. After listening, that whole picture of putting those kids in so many different schools at so many times. My second main concern is that this is just a Band-Aid for a bigger problem. I have a high schooler, middle schoolers, all these kids are going to feed in, and I don't believe doing the lines or doing any of that right now is going to actually fix a problem that has to be addressed in the future. So I'm just begging of you to slow down, look at the bigger picture, make sure that this model, the K2, 3-5 model works, because from what I'm briefly hearing is that it doesn't work. So that's all I'm asking you to please slow down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reina. Is there anyone else before I close the public hearing? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Some of you may know me because I work for the system right now, but I'm actually a parent of an Odell Elementary student. I also live in Skybrook North, so I'm kind of torn tonight because I have many friends and neighbors who are here representing their families and their communities. But one of the things that I do want to say, and I wasn't planning on speaking, I was just here to listen and to hear out the concerns that the community has. But one of the things that does concern me is that as a community and as a school member and as a resident of the Northwest Side, I would like the board to consider the feelings of the teachers and the schools that are involved. A lot of the words that are being said are quite negative towards Odell. And I don't think that the staff there really warrants so much negativity. We've had a very positive experience as a mother. Speaking as a parent here, the staff there, the teachers have always been wonderful. One of the things that you cannot assess by school scores and all the assessment data that has come through over the last few years is the feeling and pride that the students have at Odell. So I just wanted to say that on behalf of the school, and as a mom, I have an only child, so I can say that right now he'll be a rising fourth grader. So I'm not terribly impacted by what is happening because he will finish at Odell. Now, one of the concerns I do have is logistically what will happen mid-year. From the original proposal, he would start off at the old Odell, which is the Moss Creek Odell to me, and then transition to a new building that will be built, because the old Odell from the 1950s, if I'm correct, 40s, 30s? Okay, well, I'm from New York City, so pre-war to me would be pre-1942. So we'll say pre-World War II. So that will be raised and a new structure will be built. That is my understanding. And I think most of us who've read the proposal and saw the maps understand that the old structure will be torn down and there will be new construction built. Obviously, that will take time to build a safe new building, state-of-the-art, and whatever whatever the other schools have, I'm assuming the new Odell at the corner of Odell School Road will have. On behalf of the friends that I have that my son attended preschool with, we love Primrose at Eastfield Village, so I have to say that. Many of his classmates who are at Cox Mill have also had a wonderful time there. They rave about their school functions and their staff and their teachers, so they have an equally great school because Odell Elementary is a great school. One of the concerns I see, and I'd like you to take into account, is the transportation, because that corner there going into Moss Creek right now, Moss Creek is a huge community, so I'm sure they're concerned as well about the traffic inflow. The sheriff is always there making sure that it's safe to turn in, and that's one of the reasons why there is not a light at this point. That might change, but I think that that will be taken into consideration depending on what is addressed tonight and in July. The other thing is logistically, since I only have one child, I can imagine those that have multi-age children in a family are very concerned about the pickup and drop-off situation and whatever after-school enrichment clubs there are. So that definitely needs to be readdressed. I would like to say with the maps, based on living in the neighborhood and seeing the growth in the last 3-4 years, and there's a new development being built between Huntersville Concord Road and the corner of Harris and Poplar, which I don't even know what the number of units are going into that massive subdivision, but that, I don't know if that's been taken into account. But one of the things that I would like to see is maybe some more positive PR, Ms. Boone, sorry. Positive PR about both schools being said. That way, as an employee and as a fellow stakeholder, that we don't see so much negativity between the schools, because I don't think there should be that much competition between the schools, although it can be quite challenging to not avoid the competition. But I think it would be nice to see something positive come out of this, and that's all I have to say.
Could you tell me, excuse me, could you state your name for those of us who aren't familiar with you?
Gladly. Sandy Bravo Boyd. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the board regarding the redistricting? Come on forward. And your name, please.
Dawn Ray. I'm going to talk really quick because I'm very nervous. I live in the Poplar Woods development. We are a closed development. We're not growing. And by my understanding with the Poplar tent the way the road's growing, we won't even be able to turn left out of our subdivision, which means that coming to Odell will be like a traffic nightmare. It's very easy for us to turn right into Cox Mill. I like the idea of all the closed neighborhoods just kind of staying where we are. We're not growing. So I just wanted to say that on behalf of Poplar Woods because nobody came up for Poplar Woods yet. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Okay, now this is the last call. I don't want to exhaust you. At the same time, I really appreciate the candor at which you conducted yourselves tonight, and I think the board really appreciates. You gave us a lot to think about and a lot to mull over as we go forward with this. And so at this time, board members, I'm going to take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All in favor of closing the hearing? Aye. Opposed? All right. Our public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, before we move forward, I'd like to make a quick comment before everybody gets gone. And in reference to the redistricting, for those of you that have questions about the school and the way it's going to look, well, some of us have seen that, and I think that we probably can get that on the website, can't we, Dr. Shepard?
So certainly can, sir.
I think we can get that on there. And, of all the schools that I've been able to be a part of over the years, which actually is about 15 schools now, this one is a lot different architects, much different design with all the energy efficient things that we look for. It will be a state-of-the-art school, and it's a beautiful layout. And I think that you'll be very well pleased with it. And I hope that we can get that on the website pretty soon so you'll be able to see that part. And thanks from my own self for all of you for coming out tonight and taking your time to speak to us and express your concerns. Thank you.
Class dismissed. Board members, do you want to take a quick 5-minute break while we allow this room to empty out?